The stage was set for what was billed as a raw and real live debate between Representative Jasmine Crockett and conservative commentator Tucker Carlson. Promoters had hyped it for days, with millions tuning in, expecting a typical culture clash. But what transpired was anything but typical. From the first few moments, Jasmine remained calm and methodical, while Tucker leaned into his usual provocations.
However,
everything changed when Jasmine produced receipts, actual text messages attributed to Tucker that sent shockwaves through the set. And eventually, the internet. Tucker opened the conversation with his trademark smirk, downplaying systemic racism as a worn-out narrative used by the left to stay relevant. Crockett didn't flinch. Coolly is the gaslighting. I'm about to show people exactly why. The tension was immediate. Tucker laughed condescendingly, but Jasmine kept eye contact as she reached into her folder. Before you say another word, she said, I want to read something you sent, Tucker. A message from your own phone to a colleague at your network. A hush fell over the studio as she read. It's always the same. Loud, angry, entitled. You can tell before they even speak. That was from you, wasn't it? Carlson blinked, suddenly stiff. Da-da-da-da. You don't know the context of that. Quote, he snapped. Let's not play games, Jasmine. But she wasn't done. Or how about this one? She continued. They riot because it's easier than working. The audience gasped audibly. Tucker's face went crimson. Those messages, she said, were verified by 3 independent reporters and traced to your internal Slack account. Stood up from his chair. You're lying, he shouted. This is defamation, but Jasmine didn't raise her voice. She simply turned to the moderator and handed over the printed logs. These were leaked to a whistleblower, I vetted. Then before coming here? And if you want to call it a lie, let's go under oath and do it in court. Carlson's fury grew. This is character assassination, he barked. You're trying to cancel me on live TV? But it wasn't working. His outburst only made the truth echo louder. The producers signaled for a break, but Jasmine calmly waved them off. No break, she said. America needs to see this in real time. Tucker tried to pivot. You think this is journalism? You're a congresswoman weaponizing private data. But Crockett shook her head. I'm exposing a public figure whose platform is built on denying racism while privately acknowledging it. That's not a leak, that's accountability. The audience burst into applause. Carlson froze, clearly shaken by the sudden power shift. Social media lit up like wildfire. Clips of the exchange spread within minutes, with captions like Crockett drops receipts and Tucker exposed by his own texts. Political commentators on both sides began weighing in. Even some of Carlson's usual allies were silent. The texts were too specific, too damning. Hashtags like #TuckerTexts and #CrockettTruth were soon trending globally. And Jasmine's calm demeanor amid Carlson's meltdown became a viral symbol of strength. Meanwhile, Tucker's legal team scrambled to do damage control. A spokesperson claimed the texts were taken out of context, but refused to deny their authenticity. Crockett's office released a detailed timeline showing how the messages had been verified, vetted, and independently sourced. This wasn't a stunt. Her statement read, "This was justice in its most public form." Legal experts chimed in, noting that Carlson could pursue defamation claims, but he'd have to admit under oath whether the texts were real. News networks devoted entire panels to dissecting the fallout. On MSNBC, a civil rights attorney said, "What Jasmine Crockett did wasn't just brave, it was strategic. She brought evidence into a space that usually only allows opinions." On CNN, former Fox producer confirmed that internal communication at Carlson's show had long contained racially insensitive commentary, validating the whistleblower's credibility. The tide had turned, and no one could deny it. Back at the network where Carlson had once ruled primetime, executives were in crisis mode. Advertisers began pulling out. A few anchors tried to defend him, but their voices were drowned out by public outrage. Employees were told not to comment, but anonymous staffers leaked messages expressing shock and anger. One said, "We all knew he was problematic, but this is different. This is undeniable." Calls for his resignation grew louder. Jasmine, meanwhile, remained focused. When asked by a journalist how she felt about the moment going viral, she replied, "Going viral means nothing if we don't turn outrage into outcomes. This isn't just about one man's message, it's about the systems that protect him while demonizing truth-tellers." Her words echoed the same calm force that had disarmed Carlson just hours earlier. She wasn't chasing clout, she was confronting power with purpose. That evening, Carlson went on air to deliver what many assumed would be a rebuttal. Instead, he gave a bizarre, scattered monologue about media manipulation and woke mobs. He never directly denied the texts. Commentators immediately pointed out the omission. "He had the chance to say those weren't mine," tweeted one analyst. "He didn't. That's all we needed to know." The backlash only grew worse. Civil rights organizations issued statements supporting Crockett. The NAACP called her a pillar of truth in a sea of cowardice. Color of Change launched a petition demanding Carlson be held accountable by his network. Celebrities, athletes, and public figures praised Jasmine's courage. Gron James tweeted, "That's how you hold someone accountable. Respect to Jasmine Crockett." Within 24 hours, she had become a household name. School debate teams analyzed the confrontation as a case study in rhetorical control. Professors referenced it in lectures on crisis management and power dynamics. TikTok creators reenacted the moment with admiration, while parody versions showed Tucker melting down with exaggerated dramatics. But even amid the memes, the weight of the moment remained. It was no longer entertainment. It was evidence. Carlson tried to pivot again days later, this time claiming the leak was illegal. But legal experts noted that whistleblower protections applied in this case. Can't cry foul about your own words being exposed if you're a public figure who used those words to mislead millions, said one media law professor. Jasmine's strategy had not only exposed hypocrisy, it had protected itself from retaliation as public pressure mounted. The network quietly announced Carlson would be taking an extended leave. No official firing, no full admission, just an abrupt pause. But the message was clear. His credibility had suffered a blow too severe to ignore. Crockett released a short statement. "Let this be a reminder, truth doesn't need permission to speak, just needs the courage to show up." Congress began discussions about implementing new ethical standards for media platforms receiving federal funding or advertising. Crockett joined a bipartisan working group to address misinformation and race baiting in broadcast journalism. Her influence had moved from a single viral moment to legislative tables. She was no longer just a guest on the show, she was rewriting the rules of the game. Even some conservative voices began admitting Carlson had gone too far. A retired GOP strategist said on air, "You don't have to agree with Crockett's politics to respect her poise." She didn't yell. She didn't accuse without evidence. She simply told the truth. And it broke through. The narrative had shifted not just against Carlson, but in favor of principled accountability. Back in her district, Jasmine was met with cheers at town halls. Constituents thanked her for standing up to bullies with facts, not fury. Schools invited her to speak. Local papers called her a new face of fearless justice. When asked how she prepared for the confrontation, she smiled and said, "By remembering who I represent and who I refuse to be silenced by." Weeks later, during a panel on journalism ethics, a veteran reporter said, "What Jasmine Crockett did wasn't just a takedown, it was a reminder that the truth still matters, even when shouted over." Her presence at the event was unannounced. But when she was introduced, the room rose to its feet. She hadn't just gone viral, she had gone undeniable. So yes, Tucker Carlson went nuts when Jasmine Crockett exposed his racist texts. But his rage only amplified her truth. She didn't scream, she didn't flinch. She held up a mirror and let the nation see what was behind the smirk. In doing so, she reminded America that integrity doesn't yell, it just shows up with receipts and lets the silence do the rest.